Welcome. It's tea time. I'm going to have my cup of tea, and I hope that you're going to enjoy your cup of tea as well. So thank you for joining me for this discussion on communicating and selling in a televisual age. My name is Dexter Moscow, and it is my real name. It's not a stage name, although for many years I was involved with television. I was selling and teaching other people how to sell on QVC, the shopping channel. So what I would like to do today is share with you some of those ideas, some of those processes about how we sold on QVC. And in this, what I call the televisual age, where we need now all to be television and broadcasting presenters, if that's the right word. So what I want to do today is I want to share with you some of the secrets of how we sold on QVC and how now we can sell in this environment, because most of our communication now is via remote contact through this television screen for all purposes. So I'm going to make a promise to you today. I want to help you gain high-level contracts and high-level clients by using some of the processes and the kind of frameworks that I used when I taught people how to sell on QVC. And for my part, I sold millions of pounds worth of products for major brands, for major high street brands. And so I want you to be able to do the same. And the way that we're going to do it is there are no slides. It's just a face-to-face chat. So if there's any particular discussions or if any particular questions that you would like to ask, then please do. I've got the chat box open here, and Ellie will feed me those questions. This is not a lecture. This is a discussion. And I want to make it as relevant to you and for you as possible. So there are three elements that we're going to look at today. And those three elements are equipment. What are the equipment that you need to be effective in this environment? What's the content of a presentation, a discussion, a pitch that you can make? And so we'll look at some of those frameworks. And the third element is delivery. How do you deliver what you want to talk about? How do you deliver so that you gain the business that you deserve? So, if anybody has ever told you, you can't sell on Zoom, it's a lie. You can sell on Zoom, and obviously we're on a Zoom call, so this is what I'm referencing, but there's loads of other elements, other facilities where you can get online, talk to your team, talk to your clients, and just generate the activity, because that's what it's all about today. So first of all, I'd like to talk to you about the camera. The camera that I've got is a Logitech. It's the high definition one. It's 180p. So that's what you need. You know what? You need one that is going to gather the light. It's going to be autofocus. So if you move back or you move forward from your screen, you're going to still be seen clearly. And that's the key here. People need to see you. And so that's the first element. If you're using a phone rather than a laptop, or I'm using a desktop here, then make sure that it is on a tripod. The worst thing that happens, and you've seen it so many times, when somebody is talking and there's constant movement on the screen, it's very, what's the right word? It disgregates you or discombobulates you. So think about how you can stabilize that vision. The next most important thing is the microphone. Now, obviously, there's some good microphones that are in these camcorders, these cameras that, in fact, I'm using one where it does have a microphone, but I prefer to use a separate microphone. And this is, actually, I think it's also a Logitech. It's called a Blue Snowball. Why it's called a Blue Snowball when, in fact, it's black, but that's another thing. So use a microphone that is going to restrict outside noise, because again, that can be discombobulating or can detract from your presentation. So think about that. The other thing I would suggest, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about equipment, because I want to get into the nitty-gritty of how you sell, how you make those connections, and how you get those clients and the customers that you need. So the last bit I would talk about is lighting. And the lighting that I have got is, there is in fact a ring light just suspended above the camera. So it casts a light on me. I've obviously got other lighting, and be aware that at certain times of the day, especially when the light is going to stream, or hopefully the sunlight is going to stream through the window, that you need to be able to match that. You need to be able to match the light from the light that you've got, the ring light, and the light that's streaming in from the window. So those are the three most important elements: the camera, the microphone, and the light. One other thing, and I'm not using it today, but you can see in the corner there, I've got a green screen. The green screen is very useful when you want to throw a background up. And with the green screen, it kind of stabilizes the image. So again, you often see the top of the head, somebody disappears or completely disappears. So be aware of that. If you want to use a backdrop, then a green screen is really useful to do. So that's the major thing about equipment. Now to the real nitty gritty, the content. As with any online discussion, conversation, you want to know where you're going. And that's certainly true in the physical world, in the world where you are actually talking to people physically, face to face. Do you remember when that used to happen? We talked to people face to face. And if we were at a business meeting, we created an agenda. So I'm certainly suggesting that for you. Make the agenda, those key points that you want to get over, the message that you want to convey. The best way of communicating your offering is to keep yourself on track. And there has to be a mutuality of purpose here. The mutuality of purpose is not just about your agenda, but what is their agenda. And this is certainly true when you are going to speak on a presentation that you're giving to a network. There is so many golden opportunities out there to get your message to a much wider audience. We now live in this age, unfortunately, as I said before, where the major form of communication is remote communication. So the key here is to really understand what your key message is and to present it to a much wider world, because people are coming in from all over the world to think about and listen to what you're going to say. So one of the key things, and this is a mantra that if you get nothing else from this conversation today, I want to give you this one mantra that I have. Don't tell people what you do. Tell them what you have done for others. That's the key. When you explain what you have done, the problem that you've resolved for other people, then your clients and your customers, that mutuality of purpose that I spoke about before, when you really understand what their needs are and illustrate it by your stories, and storytelling is the key, then that allows them to step into that experience and then decide whether to do business with you. Now, I think I said already that I haven't got slides. I'm not having slides in this presentation, but I have got slides if you want them, because I'm going to give you a number of frameworks that will be illustrated in these slides, and hopefully they're going to be meaningful to you. So I'm going to talk about, first of all, a 2-minute story framework. Why 2 minutes? Because the majority of people's attention span, especially now when we have this thing called Zoom fatigue. So I apologize that I'm zooming to you in this way, but that is a reality. So you've got to be able to encapsulate your ideas, encapsulate your message, encapsulate your stories very, very effectively in 2 minutes. And there are 3 elements to that storytelling framework. The first is incident, action is the second, and benefit, which actually is the key, perhaps key selling point. So the incident is the overarching situation. What is it that you were called in to see a client about? What was the problem that they will experience? And what did you actually do? The action that you took to resolve that problem. And then the benefit statement, what do they gain from it? So it could be that it is a financial gain, it is a time that they got back, that they prevented losing a talent from their team. So just think about the elements of those incident, action, and benefit. And I'll break it down for you into seconds, if you like. The overarching incident should be about 15 seconds. The action that you took is the majority of that conversation. So again, that could be about 1 minute, 15 seconds. And the benefit statement is about 15 seconds. Now, it is not so much a hard and fast rule, but mainly a guideline, but certainly a 2-minute story that engages people, that people can step into that experience to see again what you have done for others, so that they can say, do you know what? I've got that kind of a problem. They can resolve it for me, or he can and she can resolve it for me. Because remember this again, that in this environment, we are invited into people's homes. And so the key here is to make an emotional connection. And I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in a minute. But the key thing here is to understand that because we are invited into people's homes, we can't sell to them down the throat of the camera. We have to be more subtle, because if you invited a guest into your home, which is in fact what's happening here, would you pitch at them? No, you wouldn't. You would find a way of getting around that conversation and getting to your key message. So that element of the 2-minute story, the incident, action, and benefit, is so important to you. So I'm looking down because there's another key element that I want to tell you about, and that's the 30-second commercial. It's what we know as the elevator pitch, but it's an elevator pitch with a difference. It's not, again, telling people what you do. It's about identifying the problems, the pains that people are experiencing that you can resolve. And here you need to know what are the pains in any particular industry or in any particular sector for the people that you're speaking to. So that's research. You need to find out what's going on for them. Read the CEO's report, read the chairman's report, do some research on LinkedIn. Find out what are the pains that they're suffering. For instance, if somebody says to me, Dex, what do you do? And I would say, typically, I work with owner-run businesses or larger organizations where their frustration is that they're not gaining the business they require from the presentations they're making. Or perhaps their sales force is not connecting with their customers. And so it is about 3 of those elements. I want to go on from that because I want you to think about it. But think about what pains they're suffering and use those words. Use the pain words: frustration, angry, fearful, all of those things that you know are keeping them awake at night. Because when you address that in a 30-second commercial very succinctly, they think, again, my goodness, that person understands me. And in fact, the real key here is when you're pitching to somebody and you really know what the problem is, even in a network situation, when you state what you know is going on for them, you cease to become another salesperson. You become somebody who empathizes with them, that understands their problem. And if you can come up with something, which I'll address later, that they didn't even think about, my goodness, you're in. So that's 2 of the real content elements that you can structure within your presentations or your business pitches and discussions. And this is also true of when you are seeking a promotion or in whatever situation where you're needing to sell yourself, because that's the key here. It's selling yourself. So let's go on to this next framework, which I call the 4 cornerstones of an effective presentation. And those cornerstones are literally this: your personal credibility, your company credibility, 3 or 4 facts about, if it's a product fact, 3 of those, 4 of those. If it is a discussion about your service, what are those 3 to 4 key facts about your service? Or if it's just about you, what makes you different? So once again, those 3 first elements: personal credibility, company credibility, 3 or 4 facts about what you do. And the last of this is so important. It's WIFM. Now, that's not a radio station. It's what's in it for me and what's in it for them. So, going right the way back to what I said to you at the beginning, it's that agenda, that's mutuality of purpose. So what is what you do going to impact them positively and get them out of the problem? So let me go back on that discussion about the individual elements of this. Personal credibility. What is your personal credibility? What is your right to talk about what you're going to talk about? What is my right to talk to you about selling in this environment? I've already mentioned that. I worked for many, many years for QVC, the shopping channel, constructing cells that would help me sell whatever product that I was selling. It wasn't services, it was pure product. And they sell amazing amount of money every day, millions of pounds worth. And so a number of these processes is how they are effective. Storytelling is at the core. So think of the stories that you can tell that illustrate what you do. Those personal credibilities, what right, as I said, have you got to talk about that? The company credibility could be the companies that you've worked with or worked for and the results that you've achieved for them. I've already talked about QVC. I could tell you about Lego or Mothercare or British Land or a number of the accountancy practices and law firms that I've worked with. So all of those elements really are what you should include in terms of your company credibility. The 3 or 4 key facts about what your product does, what your service does, what you do. Because there is, and this is another mantra of mine, which is really important for you to realize, people buy emotionally, they decide logically. So you have to tap into the emotion because that's how we filter information. Then you can talk about the logic. So what's in it for them? Think about that, what we've already spoken about. What is it that is happening for them that they're not happy with? What can you do for them that will alleviate that pain? Because that's what's in it for them. And you can illustrate it again, and I make no apologies for repeating it, what you have done for others. So let's look at the last element of this discussion today, and that is delivery. How are you going to deliver the message? What are the mechanisms that you need to deliver this message? Well, first of all, delivery is about eyeline. And I don't know if you've noticed, but for the majority of this conversation, I've looked directly down the throat of the camera. Now, there is a couple of opinions of whether this is intimidating or not, but my feeling is this: if you've made that connection right from the start, then that is helpful, to look down the camera, to make that connection, to make that emotional connection. So be very aware of your eye line. And so if you are using a phone, make sure that the eye line is right, that you're looking down the camera part of the phone. Same if it's a laptop, you may have to turn it on its head because obviously when you're using an iPad, then the camera is at the side, and that makes it a little bit difficult to create the eye line. But the most important thing is to be aware of that. If you are coaching, if you are teaching a specific topic and you've been invited to a symposium or a conference very much like this, then think of the comfort breaks. Or the time that people need to break away from the screen. So if it's an extended presentation, if it's a presentation of about an hour, be aware of that. People may want to go and grab a cup of tea, and I'm going to do that now. Because people need to have that kind of refreshment. So again, the emotional connection, be aware. Be aware of people. Be aware of how people receive and perceive information, which actually is another topic in itself. There are 3 basic ways that people receive and perceive information. That's either very visually, or they like to hear the words and they like to process those words, or they connect emotionally. It's called kinesthetic. You've heard it, VAK, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. And in situations where people are bought into emotionally, that's the kinesthetic level. So we need, in any event, whether they are highly visual, highly auditory, or kinesthetic, feeling, then we need to be able to tap into that experience as well. So we need to moderate our pace, because visual people will want to hear the information very quickly. You need to draw pictures for them. Auditory people will like the words delivered a little bit slower so that they can process the words, because words are important to them. And the kinesthetic person will need to process the information, think about it. So be aware that when you are delivering, you need to alter your voice and your pace and use the right tonality and language. So that's the important elements there. Now I want to talk to you about the 4 E's. And I think we have enough time to do this. The 4 E's of any presentation. Emotion is the overriding E. Right the way through your presentation, you need to re-engage with people. In a live situation, you can ask them questions. In fact, there's a question that has just come up, and let's have a look. Right, okay. It's not a question, it's a 10-minute warning. So I know how much time I've got now. So the 4 E's, as I said, emotion runs right the way through the presentation. So be aware of how you connect with people. The next element is engagement. There is a horrible reality. When we're on these kind of calls, we only have 7 seconds to create an impression. And if we want to create the right impression, we need to think very carefully of how we're going to start the presentation. Certainly in a live situation or a networking situation, you would thank the people that are hosting the conversation. So I'm going to thank Ellie now for doing this. So that's one area of the 4 E's, the engagement. The next is enlightenment. And this is absolutely key here. Enlightenment, there are 3 elements to enlightenment. The first of enlightenment is to tell people something that they already know, because that's comforting. They feel that they're doing it right. The next element of the enlightenment is to tell them something they don't know. Do you remember right at the beginning, I said that, if you're speaking to somebody and you wanted to sell to them, tell them something that you hadn't even thought about. That needs research, but tell them something they hadn't even thought about, because that perception changes of who you are. And the last bit of enlightenment is the most motivating, and that's FOMO, fear of missing out. If you're telling them things that other companies, other individuals, other situations that they're doing that the person you're speaking to is not doing, my goodness, is that motivation enough to buy from you? So think of those 3 areas of enlightenment: how to convey something they know, tell them something they don't know, and what is it that other people are doing that they're missing out on? Absolutely key. The next bit, and I hope I've done this for you today, is entertain. If you're not entertaining, if you're not stimulating, you've got an audience out there. And whether it's a television audience or it's a networking audience, you have to do something that is going to be entertaining, or something that makes them, you don't need to tell a joke. Although if you're a good joke teller, then that does it. But make it relevant. Tell stories that are relevant. So make it a little bit more personal experience, rather than just telling them facts and all of that bit. So those are the key elements. But the last element, which is really important, it's almost the +1. So you've got the emotional connection. You've got how to engage with people. You've got how to enlighten with people. You've got how to entertain people. And you can use props and various other things to do that. The last bit of it is how you excite them. If you're not excited about what you do, how the hell are you going to make anybody else excited? So those, for me, are the most important things. When you're gleaning information, especially in networking situations where you're not presenting, think in terms of the 70-30 rule. Now, that's not Pareto's rule of 80-20. 70-30 is 70% of them doing the majority of the talking. So if that's the case, then 30% is you're asking deeper and better questions, because when you do that, that informs what your talk is going to be about. Now, I'm not going to sell to you, although what I will show you is this information that I've derived from today is my book, Stand Up and Sell, where these processes, I've taken it from this book. So just think through what those processes that are effective for you and how you use them. If you want to email me, if you want to make contact with me, then you can contact me at Dexter at dextermoscow.co.uk. So I'd be very, very happy to talk you through some of the ideas that we have talked about today. Because as I said, my main purpose today is to give you those secrets. And what makes me different from anybody else? Because majority of sales coaches have never sold on TV, never had to sell to an invisible audience. And so the processes and the ideas, the distillation of years of experience working in those environments and now working in the corporate environment is what I hope has in part being able to move you forward. My whole purpose is to make sure that your mindset is right so that you feel confident to take center stage, because if you're not, you're missing a golden opportunity to sell what you're selling. And as I said before, it may be a product, it may be a service, but the first thing you need to sell is yourself. So I hope that is giving you some ideas. There obviously are various other ways. There is the 5 ways to start a presentation. It can be factual. It can be a story that you will tell. It can be something humorous that happened for you. So just think those things through. There's lots of information out there about storytelling. And the last message to you, please, please prevent you having to use PowerPoint. We are in an environment which is a personal, emotional environment. And if you don't use PowerPoint, then you make a connection. Yes, if it's illustrative, that's fine, but don't have lots and lots of words on it. And in fact, Harvard Business Review, and I was trying to find the article before, they were saying that if you use PowerPoint, people don't take in the information as much as if you speak to them. So I hope that gives you an indication of where you can go. Don't use PowerPoint as a crutch. Use it for illustrative purposes, and then you will find that there is something of value for you. So that's what we're discussing. Think about the equipment that you use. Think about the kind of content that you deliver that is fantastic for you, that is meaningful to them. And last, think about your delivery. And if you just take one thing from this conversation today, don't tell people what you do, tell them what you have done for others. Thank you for joining me at tea time, if it is tea time where you are. From the rest of the day, have a great day. For tomorrow, have a great Friday, and enjoy the weekend. Thanks for listening.